So I have been allotted to talk about cyclone and its forecasting. So my PPT is moving. Are you able to see the second slide?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes,
sir. We can see.
yes.
Okay, thank you. So I will just begin with what a cyclone is. As all of us know, in layman's term, when there is a cyclone crossing a coast, you will find that there is torrential rain, heavy rainfall, continuous rainfall, or you can say downpour. And also you will find that there is strong wind, trees are uprooted, tree branches are cut off, you'll find that houses are damaged. Also you'll find that sometimes the saline water from the sea is inundating. So we understand the tropical cyclone in terms of, therefore, the associated severe weather like heavy rainfall, winds, and storm surges. Storm surge is nothing but the tidal wave which inundates the low-lying areas when a cyclone crosses the coast. The important point is that when a cyclone is crossing the coast, all these three, heavy rainfall, strong wind, and storm surge, occur at the same time. So therefore, cyclone becomes a multi-hazard scenario. It causes the damages because of the storm surge in terms of flooding of coastal areas, erosion of beaches, loss of soil fertility due to saline intrusions, and also it can cause damage to structures in the coastal areas. Similarly, wind also can cause damage to structures. There can be loss of power and communications. There can be injuries and loss of lives. There can also destruction of crops, vegetation, livestock. The rainfall associated with cyclone causes contamination of water, supply system, land subsidence, flooding of inland areas. So all these three are occurring at the same time. So therefore, the cyclone is considered as a killer. So if you just look at a few facts about the cyclones, you will find that about 33% of the total hydrometeorological disasters are caused by tropical cyclones in this latest period of 1970 to 2019. 1 out of 3 events that killed most people globally is the tropical cyclone. TC stands for tropical cyclone. And 7 out of 10 disasters that caused the biggest economic losses in the world during this period of 1970 to 2019 are the tropical cyclones. And you will find that about 85 countries in the world are affected by the tropical cyclones. There could be as high as 300,000 or 3 lakh people deaths in Bangladesh cyclone 1970. It is popularly called as Bhola cyclone because it crossed Bangladesh coast near Bhola. And it is still ranked as the biggest casualty in the last 5 decades due to the tropical cyclones. So therefore, throughout the world, the scientists have tried to have as accurate as possible the cyclone monitoring, cyclone forecasting, and cyclone warning services. And also, all the meteorological agencies try to apply all the available modern technologies for these operational services so as to minimize the loss of life and property. Now, if you look at India, in India, both west coast and east coast are prone for cyclones. Entire west Indian coast are prone for cyclones. But however, this degree of proneness is different for different coastal belts. In this diagram, you can find out that there are certain areas where you got red. Red means it is very highly prone for tropical cyclone activity. Then is the blue, the next is the high prone. Then green is the moderately prone, and the yellow is the low prone districts for the cyclones. So from this, you can find out that east coast is more prone for the tropical cyclones than the west coast. In the west coast, Gujarat is most prone, and the east coast, you will find that Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, West Bengal are more prone. Now, if you look at the cyclone forecasting so far, you will be happy to know that in recent years, we have been able to provide accurate forecast for tropical cyclone tracks and their intensity. As a result, the number of deaths has been reduced. And if you compare our forecast accuracy with the international agencies, you will find that our forecast is at par or better than many leading centers of the world. So this forecast accuracy is increasing every year. As you know, as it was being told that in the recent years, we have seen the cyclone Phylline, Hudud, Italy, Fani, Ampan, where IMD has provided very accurate forecast and thus enabled the disaster managers, stakeholders, and general public to take necessary actions to minimize the loss of lives and properties. So it is to just show you that how many people have died in recent years. If you compare, you will see in different cyclones which have crossed Indian coast, the number of deaths have never exceeded 100. It is limited within 100. At the same time, if you compare the Odisha super cyclone in 1999, there are about 10,000 deaths. So this has been the achievement in recent years in terms of minimizing the loss of lives due to cyclones. So it has been possible because of many initiatives taken by Government of India and the states. It has been an integrated effort by enhancing the technology, by enhancing the preparedness and planning measures, and by enhancing the response mechanism of people, disaster managers, and various stakeholders. So you may think about how did it happen actually, how this changeover or how this game changer happened so that you have come down from 10,000 to less than 100 in terms of loss of lives due to cyclones. I just want to mention here that after Odisha super cyclone 1999, there was even try across the country how to tackle these cyclones which are causing the number of deaths. Then at the central level, Government of India took off a project called National Cyclone Risk Mitigation Project, and it was taken up in 2006. And in that project, IMD was a partner to improve the early warning system. But however, in the same year, Government of India decided to come up with the establishment of Ministry of Earth Sciences. And under the Ministry of Earth Sciences, the modernization program of IMD was taken up. And then IMD decided to modernize its cyclone warning system through its own modernization program. And hence we came out of the World Bank project, that is NCRMP, and this modernization program was taken up. And I was monitoring this cyclone modernization project as project director and also as associate project director for improvement of weather forecasting in IMD. So during this project implementation, we addressed all the aspects of cyclone warning systems for its modernization. Now, with this some kind of background, I will come up with what a cyclone is. Technically, a cyclone does not form from a blue sky. Just we say a bolt from the blue, that does not occur like that. A thunderstorm, you can find out with a blue sky, after half an hour, you will find that there is a thunderstorm. But in case of cyclone, it does not happen like that. A cyclone develops from a low pressure area, and that low pressure area gradually intensifies and becomes a cyclone in a favorable environment. So to define a cyclone, we say a cyclone is a weather system which is called as a low pressure system, where the wind rotates anti-clockwise direction in northern hemisphere and clockwise direction in southern hemisphere. And the minimum wind speed becomes 34 knots or 62 kilometers per hour. So this is the quantitative definition. World Meteorological Organization, which coordinates the meteorological activity among the countries in the world, defines it as a tropical cyclone, a synoptic scale system. All the weather systems are divided into 4 categories. One is called as planetary scale system, which has got the size of more than 1,000 kilometers. For example, monsoon, southwest monsoon is a system which is a planetary scale system because it extends from USA to Japan. So we say it is a planetary scale system. A tropical cyclone is a synoptic scale system. This system is having the size of 100 kilometers to 1,000 kilometers. So low pressure depressions, cyclones are the synoptic scale systems. Similarly, the thunderstorms are called as the mesoscale systems with size of 10 kilometers to 100 kilometers. Then there is another system called as microscale systems like tornado, water spouts. So these are called as microscale systems. So considering these, the spatial dimension of the weather systems, they are divided into 4 categories. And cyclone comes under the category of synoptic scale systems. And it is a non-frontal disturbance. So if you look at the weather systems in the USA, UK, or European countries, you will find that there the systems forms because of the difference in temperature. So the temperature plays a dominant role, and that temperature comes as a cold front or warm front. With those frontal systems, also sometimes cyclones form, but those cyclones are not tropical cyclones. They are called extratropical cyclones. They are not dangerous. The tropical cyclones are dangerous systems. So these tropical cyclones are not frontal systems. These are non-frontal systems. They develop over the tropical water. When I say tropical water, as per our geography, from equator to 23.5 degrees north and south is called as the tropical region. So generally, these cyclones develop within these tropical belts and further over the tropical water. Because formation of cyclone depends upon the amount of moisture available, amount of energy available from the sea. And then other thing is that in a tropical cyclone, the cloud, which is developed because of the convective process in the atmosphere, is highly organized cloud. There is a definite cyclonic surface wind circulation. So when I say convective cloud, I want to say that as I told you, this is a process in which heat energy is transferred. The heat energy can be transferred from one place to another place in 3 ways: the conduction, convection, and radiation. Among these 3 processes, in the weather systems, convection plays a dominant role. Just like boiling the rice in a bowl, in the atmosphere, when there is a heating from the surface, from the sea surface or the land surface, the particles get heated and they move up and down. And through this movement of the particles, heat energy is transferred from one layer to the other layer. So this process of transfer of heat energy is called as convection. And this convection process leads to formation of the clouds, especially the thunderstorm clouds and highly rainfall causing clouds. So therefore, a tropical cyclone is a convective system. Tropical system is a system developing over the tropical area. It is a non-frontal system, and it is a system in the size of 100 kilometers to 1,000 kilometers. It is a system where clouds are highly organized. It is a system where winds are rotating anti-clockwise in northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere around the center of the low pressure systems. And the minimum wind speed is 34 nautical miles per hour or 62 kilometers per hour. 1 nautical miles per hour is equal to 1.85 kilometers per hour. Now, these tropical cyclones, though mechanism is almost same throughout the world with little difference, they are called with different names. Over the Pacific area, they are called as typhoons. Over Australia, they are called as willy willies. In Mexico, they call it Coranzo. Philippines, they call it Bajas. In Indian Ocean, we call it cyclones. In Atlantic and Eastern Pacific, they are called as hurricanes. Now, if we look at the structure of a tropical cyclone, you'll find that on the left-hand side, you can see the diagram. And here in this diagram, you will find that there are 4 parts in a tropical cyclone. This is a satellite image of the tropical cyclone. In the central part, you will find that there is somewhat an elliptical or circular structure where you find the dark color. Dark color means there is no cloud. White color means there is cloud. More the whiteness, more depth is the cloud. So in this picture, you will find that in the center, there is a region which is circular elliptical, and its diameter is about 10 to 100 kilometers. You have the cloud-free region. So this cloud-free region at the center of the cyclone is called as eye of the cyclones. Eye is circular elliptical. Eye may be regular. Eye may be rocked also. If eye is sharp, eye is smaller, and eye is circular, it is more intense cyclone. And surrounding the eye, you will find that there is a region where we have got very deep convective clouds surrounding this eye, just like they are just guarding the eye of the cyclones. This is called as eye wall. So eye wall is a very strong convective cloud zone. And this is also circular, and its width can be about 100 kilometers. And this eye wall region is the region where you will have the maximum winds, where you will have the maximum rainfall. So therefore, this eye wall region is the most disastrous region. So maximum rainfall occurs and maximum wind occurs in this region. Then you will find that just like coiling or spiraling of our notebooks for the students, you will find that the cloud mass is just spiraling from outside towards the center. So this is one spiral coming from outside and going towards the center. This is another spiral coming from outside going towards the center. So these are called as the spiral bands. These spiral bands are also dangerous bands, or rainfall occurs, winds also occur. But as you go away from the center along the spiral band, the convective cloud gradually decreases and also the rainfall decreases. So therefore, towards the center along the spiral band, you will have higher rainfall and higher wind. As you go away from the center, the rainfall and wind decreases. Then you will find that just at the outskirts, sometimes there can be some kind of convective clouds that is called as outer layer of the cyclones. So this is a system, is a vast system, as you can see. It has got a height of about 10 to 15 kilometers. The horizontal dimension is about 100 to 1,000 kilometers. And it moves with a speed of about 300 kilometers per day. So people get confused on these two parameters. One is the wind speed associated with the cyclone. Other one is the speed by which cyclone is moving forward. The cyclone moves usually with a speed of 300 kilometers per day. So, but the wind speed associated with a cyclone can be as high as 300 kilometers per hour. So this is two different things. So therefore, if I calculate what is the wind, what is the speed of a cyclone per hour, it may be about 15 kilometers. 15 kilometers per hour, it moves. But whereas the speed associated, wind speed associated is can be in such a cyclone, super cyclone is more than 260 kilometers per hour or 200 per hour. It can be. So with this background of the structure spatially, let us look at the definitions or categorizations. As I told you, the cyclone develops from a low pressure area, and when it is a low pressure area, the wind speed associated is less than 31 kilometers per hour. When it is a depression, it intensifies. If all our basic parameters are favorable in the environment, a low intensifies becomes a depression. The wind speed associated will become 31 to 49 kilometers per hour. And a deep depression, the wind speed becomes 50 to 61 kilometers per hour. The cyclone storm, wind speed becomes 62 to 88 kilometers per hour. Like this, the wind speed increases, and severe cyclone storm wind speed is 89 to 117 kilometers per hour. In a super cyclone storm, wind speed is 222 kilometers per hour or more. So how does it happen actually? When a cyclone, when a low pressure area is there, you have got the lowest pressure at the center, you have got higher pressure outside. So as a basic principle, if there is a low pressure, there is another high pressure, wind blows from high pressure to the low pressure. As the wind blows from high pressure to the low pressure, because of the Coriolis force, this wind gets deflected and it rotates anti-clockwise in northern hemisphere and clockwise in southern hemisphere, and in a rotational manner it goes towards the center of that low pressure. So therefore, when there is a low pressure system, you get rotational wind, and this speed of the wind will gradually increase if the depth of pressure fall at the center of the low will go on increasing. So by that way, the speed increases and hence the intensity of the cyclone or system increases. Now, if you just look at the radar picture, so we have come a long way with respect to radar monitoring of the cyclones. On the left-hand side, you will find that this picture is a picture of the analog radar. So with the analog radar, we were monitoring from 1974 onwards. The cyclones were being monitored along the coast with the analog radar. Here you can find out that at the center there is a dark region. This is called the eye of the cyclone, as seen in radar. Surrounding that, you have got this dense convective cloud, which is called wall cloud or eye wall. Surrounding that, again, you are finding some kind of dark region here. This is also another eye. So what happens actually in this particular cyclone, there are two eyes. This is the inner eye. This is called as outer eye. This is the inner eye wall. This is called as outer eye wall. So it sometimes happens. But in our area, these double eye wall structure cyclones are very rare, but still it occurs. You can find out such type of double eye wall structure cyclones. In recent time, it has occurred with the cyclone Philin. Also, it has occurred in super cyclone 1999. So that was analog radar, where you can find out only convective clouds. You can find out these structures. But in recently, starting from 2006, we got the Doppler weather radar. This is the right-hand side picture. You will find that here also this is the eye of the cyclone. This is the wall cloud region. These are the spiral bands. So you can find out more in detail with respect to. But apart from that, in Doppler radar, you can find out the wind due to the cyclones also. Wind distribution can be found out. Not only that, you can also estimate what is the amount of rainfall associated with the cyclone at a particular time. So since the data from the Doppler radar is digital, this data also can be utilized in models to provide the forecast. So therefore, Doppler radar has become very highly useful as compared to the analog radar which were being used earlier. So now if I look at how a low pressure becomes a cyclone, you can see this picture on the top, you will find that top left. This is a picture of just a low pressure area where you will find that these convective clouds are just scattered. There is no organization of the convective clouds. But in this picture, you will find that convective clouds are getting clustered, they are getting organized. Now this is a depression. So this is the difference between low pressure, it is a depression. Now further concentration of the convective clouds continues and becomes a cyclone. This is the picture of a cyclone. And further the cyclone also organizes, giving the ice structure, it becomes a very severe cyclonic storm. So this is the evolution you can see in a satellite picture, how a low pressure area converts into a depression, then into cyclonic storm, then into a severe cyclonic storm or very severe cyclonic storm. Now if you look at the life cycle of a cyclone, you will find that in general, a cyclone has got a life period of about 5 to 7 days. In Indian Ocean region, that is Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea, average life period is about 5 days. Now, during these 5 days, there are 4 stages of the cyclone. The first stage is formative stage, second stage is immature stage, or you can say growing stage, third stage is mature stage, and fourth stage is decaying stage of the cyclone. So in the formative stage, which is also called as the cyclogenesis, the genesis is taking place. And at that time, what happens actually, a low pressure area converts into a depression. We say a cyclogenesis has occurred over Bay of Bengal or Arabian Sea if a depression forms. With the formation of depression, it is called as cyclogenesis throughout the world. So that formation of depression from low pressure area to depression, it can occur within a few days. Usually in 3 days, we get the conversion of low pressure into a depression. But sometimes it can happen in 1 day also. There is a rapid intensification. Low pressure can become a depression within a day. But usually it takes about 3 days, the low pressure to become a depression. And what happens actually in this formative stage, the pressure falls at the center of the low pressure systems compared to the surrounding, and hence the pressure difference between the high pressure and low pressure increases, and hence the wind blows strongly, wind speed gradually increases. So this procedure continues in the immature stage. When it becomes depression to deep depression, then cyclones and severe cyclones, it goes on increasing. That is called immature stage. In this immature stage, wind speed goes on decreasing. the pressure at the center goes on increasing, and organization of the clouds goes on increasing, and size of the cyclone also goes on increasing. Then comes the mature stage where no further increase in intensity occurs. The central pressure becomes constant, the pressure wind associated with the cyclone becomes constant, but at that time, size of the cyclone also can increase. So in the mature stage, while the pressure and wind remain same, the size of the cyclone can even go on increasing. Then comes the decay of the system. The cyclone decays after attaining the mature stage. When the cyclone decays, the central pressure increases, the wind speed also decreases, and gradually the clouds get disorganized and it dissipates. Now, this decay can occur due to various reasons. The decay usually occurs when the cyclone moves to the land surface. Because as the cyclone moves to land surface, it does not get the moisture from the sea, and hence the convective cloud cannot sustain. It rains also, therefore it weakens. Otherwise, when the cyclone moves in the colder area of the sea, if sea is colder, it cannot provide the heat energy. So therefore also the cyclone weakens. Also, cyclone can weaken if it moves into an area where your environment is not favorable. For example, if there is a wind shear in the environment, that means wind is increasing with the height, then also it will weaken. Also, it happens sometimes if there are two cyclones and they are coming closer to each other. If one cyclone strengthens, other cyclone weakens. If one cyclone weakens, other cyclone strengthens. So this is called as the Fujiwara effect. And because of that, also cyclone can weaken. So now I'll just discuss about the movement and the vertical extension of the cyclones. If you look at this picture on the left-hand side, you will find that this is how the wind rotates around the center of the cyclones. You see, it is rotating in anti-clockwise direction. It is in the Bay of Bengal near Andaman Islands. It is located here. Now, cyclone is moving towards northwest. As it moves, according to winds also rotates and goes on shifting from one place to the other place. What you find actually, the cyclone movement is usually towards northwest direction. Because of the rotation of the earth, the cyclone usually moves in northwest direction. So therefore, if any cyclone develops over the Bay of Bengal, usually it develops near Andaman Sea or southeast Bay of Bengal, it has to move towards Andhra Pradesh coast or Odisha coast. So that is the reason why among the states in east coast, Andhra and Odisha are most prone for the cyclone activities because of this climatological movement of the cyclones. But cyclones do not move always in northwest direction. Because of the atmospheric parameters, it can change its direction of movement and it can recurve or change the direction and move towards Bangladesh, Myanmar, or West Bengal, and also it can move towards Tamil Nadu or Puducherry. So there are various factors to determine. But however, you can just see in this diagram, the second one, that how the wind rotates around its center. And as you see near the center, winds are stronger. As you go away, winds are weaker. But in the eye, wind is also light. There is light wind in the eye, there is no clouds, and there is no rainfall. If you are in the daytime, you can find out the sunshine if you are located in the eye of the cyclone. If it is nighttime, you can see the stars. So sometimes what happens when a cyclone is crossing the coast, eye is passing through a particular city, for example, Visakhapatnam. Then in the advent of the cyclone, there will be continuous rainfall, continuous wind, there will be damage, devastation. Then after some time, you'll find that all of a sudden wind stopped, rain stopped. If daytime, you'll find the sunlight. You will feel that cyclone has gone. But actually, no, cyclone has not gone. Center of the cyclone has come down to your city or village. It is passing through. As the diameter of the cyclone is about 10 to 100 kilometers, it may take 1 hour or 1.5 hours or 2 hours to pass on. And after that, again, you will find that wind direction will change. If there will be very strong wind, again damage, people feel that another cyclone has come. No, it is not another cyclone. It is the rear side of the cyclone, which is approached now, and it is the same cyclone. And it becomes more devastating in the rear side sometimes. So therefore, people should be aware that when the eye is passing over a region or center is passing over a region, there the devastation will occur twice, and that region will be highly affected compared to the other regions. Now, in the below diagram, you find that how the winds are rotating and going up, and it is just like this structure. This is another structure where you will find that this, with the help of this rotating wind, you will find different types of clouds. Near the wall cloud region, the cloud depth is quite high. As you go away, the cloud depth gradually decreases. And you will find that how strongly winds are rotating here and how winds are going up, and they are diverging at the upper level. There is a highly converging wind at the lower level and highly diverging wind at the upper level. You just imagine there is a pipe. If you are forcing water from one end, the outlet of the pipe should be open so that water can flow. So inlet and outlet both are open means water can flow. If you close the outlet, the pipe will burst. The water cannot flow. Similarly here, in the lower level of the cyclone, there is inflow of the winds. And the upper level, there is outflow of the winds so that wind can go off. So this is called as flow of continuity or equation of continuity. So that should be continuity. And that will supported, you have the convergence in lower levels, that is inflow layer, and your divergence in the upper layer. So therefore, if you look at the vertical structure of the cyclone, you will find that there are three layers. That is the bottom layer, which is called as the inflow layer. In the inflow layer, the winds rotate predominantly and it moves towards the center. There is convergence of air. Then you will find there is a middle layer where this convergence gradually decreases and divergence gradually increases. So therefore, you can say there is net convergence, net divergence, 0. And in the upper layer, you will find that there is completely divergence of wind. Wind is going away, going out of the cyclone field. So this inflow layer extends up to about a 3 kilometer height. And strongest wind occurs at about a height of 1 kilometer. It is because in the lower level atmosphere, near the surface of the earth, there is friction. There are many land surface processes. So therefore, wind speed decreases at the surface of the earth. But if you go to a height of about 1 kilometer, wind gradually increases and becomes maximum. So maximum wind occurs at a height of 1 kilometer. Therefore, if a person is staying in the ground floor, another person is staying in the 10th floor of a multi-storied building, the person staying in 10th floor will experience more wind than the ground floor person. Now, if you just look at the middle layer, yes, in the middle layer you have got weak inflow, and it extends up to 3 kilometers to about 7.6 kilometers. And outflow layer starts from 7.6 kilometers and it goes about 12 kilometers or 5 kilometers. And the size gradually decreases as you go towards the top. And if I just consider what is the wind distribution in a cyclone, you'll find that in the eye, wind is very calm or light wind, and wind is maximum on the right side and left side in the wall cloud region, and then gradually wind decreases as you go away. This is the blue line, is the wind distribution in a cyclone. The lowest wind at the center of the cyclone, maximum wind in the eye wall region, and gradually wind decreases as you go away from the eye wall region. Then, of course, pressure, if you just look at, pressure is minimum at the center of the cyclone, and it gradually increases as you go away, this red line, from the center of the cyclone towards the outer layer. Now, this is the vertical structure. If you just look at, as I was telling, that wind is maximum at a height of, this is the vertical structure of the wind. Wind is maximum at a height of about 1 kilometer. This is the wind distribution. And you can find that wind is minimum here, wind is maximum here in the wall cloud region. And also wind speed gradually decreases as you go up to different heights. And eye also, if you see, eye is smaller in diameter here. As you go up, you'll find that eye diameter increases, just like it becomes a funnel type at the center of the cyclones. It is shorter diameter in the lower level and diameter is bigger in the upper level. On the right side diagram, this is the temperature distribution. So you will find that the center of the cyclone is warmer. It is really a very pleasant information that center of the cyclone is warmer than its surrounding region. And this warming increases as the cyclone intensity increases. So therefore, if you are able to measure the temperature at the center of the cyclones, especially at a height of about 9 to 10 kilometers, you can guess or you can predict what will be the intensification of the cyclones. Okay, so this one I have discussed earlier, the double eye wall structure. You can have two eye walls, that is inner eye wall and outer eye wall. You can have two eyes, that is inner eye and outer eye. I am not discussing further here. Now, I just want to explain you that the tropical cyclones are different from extratropical cyclones. The tropical cyclones occur in tropical region, but the extratropical cyclones are occurring in mid-latitude. Say, as I told you, USA, UK, sometimes northern part, they are affected by the extratropical cyclones. In this picture, you can find the left-hand side is an extratropical cyclone, the right-hand side is a tropical cyclone. Their genesis is different. The tropical cyclone occurs because of the convective process, the warm sea, whereas extratropical cyclone occurs because of the frontal system, because of the temperature difference horizontally from one place to another. In the tropical cyclones, winds are maximum at the surface or the lower level of the atmosphere. So therefore, tropical cyclones are highly dangerous. They cause damage to structures. They kill people. Whereas in extratropical cyclones, winds are maximum in the upper level at a height of about 8 to 12 kilometers. So therefore, extratropical cyclones are not dangerous at the surface. They will be dangerous for the aircrafts flying at the height of 8 to 12 kilometers. Similarly, people also get confused sometimes the tornado and the tropical cyclone. On the left-hand side diagram, you can find out this funnel type structure. So this is called as tornado. The tornado, as I was telling in the beginning, is a micro scale weather system which has got a size of about 1 kilometer or less. Sometimes it affects 1 or 2 villages, or 3 villages, or 4 villages. But it has got the same strong wind as you can find in case of a tropical cyclone. Wind can go up to 300 kilometers per hour in a tornado. But what happens in case of tornado, actually, the winds rotate just like cyclones. It is rotating in anti-clockwise direction, but wind is also very strong vertically. So therefore, in a tornado, the heavy bodies like cars, buses, or trees, they are uplifted and thrown away somewhere else because of the strong vertical wind in the tornado, which doesn't occur in case of a cyclone. But there are certain cases the cyclone can be associated with tornado sometimes. In wall cloud region of the cyclone, sometimes you can find out tornado, embedded tornado, and that also causes that type of structures. When this tornado occurs over the sea area or water bodies, it is called as water spout. And in that case, it is sucking the atmosphere. Therefore, the water is sucked off. And along with the water also, fish also can go up and they are scattered outside. So we can find in the childhood or sometimes if you are in the coastal area that you will find in your yard the fish. How does that fish come here in the rain? It occurs due to this principle of water spouts. Okay, so to define the difference, the tornado or water spouts have a very small diameter. It affects only a few villages sometimes, whereas tropical cyclones can have the effect over a number of states, a number of countries. For example, if you look at Amphan cyclone here, it affected West Bengal, it affected Bangladesh, it affected Myanmar in terms of rainfall. So therefore, the cyclone is a large scale system, where tornado is a very small scale system. Now, if you look at the climatology of the cyclones, how many cyclones develop in the world? You will find that 80 cyclones develop in the world in a year, about 80 cyclones. And out of this 80, about 35 becomes very severe cyclones in the world. If you consider our basin, the Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea, you can find out here, there are only about 5 cyclones per year, and out of 5, 3 becomes the severe cyclones. So if I calculate the percentage, only about 7% of total frequency of cyclones occurring in the world occur in our area. But notoriously, as you have seen earlier, the number of deaths due to tropical cyclones earlier was quite high in this region because of the socio-economic conditions, because of the lack of technology, etc. But in recent years, the number of deaths have decreased, and we have been at par with other countries to minimize loss of lives due to the cyclones. And if you see different ocean basins, you find that maximum number of cyclones occurs over the Northwest Pacific. It is followed by the North Atlantic and East Pacific. The South Atlantic does not get any cyclones. And our region gets only about 5 cyclones. Now, to look into further in our region, you'll find that Out of the two ocean basins like Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea, Bay of Bengal is more prone for cyclone activity than Arabian Sea. It is mainly because of two reasons. One is that it is a warmer sea, and also second reason that many of the cyclones which develop over the South China Sea, their remnants enter into the Andaman Sea and they intensify here and become the cyclones also. So because of these two reasons, Bay of Bengal gets more cyclones. Whereas the remnants from Bay of Bengal very rarely go to Arabian Sea, and there also they get intensified very rarely. Therefore, the mechanism of remnants going from Pacific to Bay of Bengal does not work from Bay of Bengal to Arabian Sea. So you'll find that out of 5 cyclones, 4 develop over Bay of Bengal and 1 develop over the Arabian Sea. And if you consider the different seasons, we have got 2 seasons: post-monsoon season, October to December, and pre-monsoon season, that is April to June. These 2 seasons, we have the cyclones in our region. This is also another characteristic feature of our region. Unlike other ocean basins, this ocean basin experiences 2 cyclone seasons. Others experience 1 cyclone season only. Okay, so among the months, if we just look at May and November, are the 2 most important months for the cyclone activity in our area. Now, if you look at the genesis parameter, why cyclone occurs? The cyclone occurs basically because of the 6 parameters. The one parameter is the thermal parameter, other one is the dynamical parameter, thermal potential, dynamic potential. Thermal potential says that we should have higher ocean heat content. That means ocean should be hot. Then we should have high humidity in the atmosphere, especially in the middle troposphere. Then we should have unstable atmosphere. Dynamically, it says that we should have the favorable Coriolis force or Coriolis parameter. I will say, because of the rotation of the Earth around its own axis, an apparent force develops. That apparent force is called as Coriolis force. And this Coriolis force is nothing but a deflecting force. I'll take an example. If you put a globe fixed and ask a child to draw a line from equator to the pole, he can draw a straight line with the chalk. Now you ask the same child to rotate the globe from west to east and ask him or her to draw the same line from equator to pole. You will find that the child cannot draw the straight line. That line will be deflected towards the right in the northern hemisphere, and that line will be deflected towards the left in the southern hemisphere. And certainly there has been no extra force applied here. And we know, as per Newton's law, if there is no extra force, the body at rest continues to be at rest, body in motion continues to be in motion, state law of inertia. So then why the direction changed? The direction changed because there is a force here, and that force, which is not visible, is called as the apparent force. And this apparent force was defined by Coriolis, and this is called as Coriolis force. And this Coriolis force depends upon the latitude of the place. If the latitude increases, the Coriolis force increases. That means near the equator, Coriolis force is 0. Near the pole, Coriolis force is maximum. So therefore, if you want to rotate the particle or air parcel for the cyclones, there should be the minimum Coriolis force. And that minimum Coriolis force is available from 5 degree north to the north. Within the region from equator to 5 degree north, the available Coriolis force is not sufficient to develop a cyclone. Therefore, cyclone does not develop near the equator. So therefore, it is written that the genesis to take place to the north of 5 degree north. Then relative vorticity. When I say relative vorticity, it is the rotating power. Say, I'll just give an example of rotating top. As a child, we played the top. The top rotates around its own axis. Now, by the way it rotates, that is measured by a quantity called as the vorticity. And the mathematical term is called as del cross v. V is the velocity. It is a vector. So it's a measure of rotation. So the atmosphere should have the rotating power. Higher the rotating power, more possibility will be the development of cyclones. Then other one is the vertical wind shear. Vertical wind shear, I'll just explain like this, that the difference of wind in lower level and the atmosphere and the upper level. If the difference of wind is less in lower level and upper level, then it will be favorable for cyclogenesis. If the difference is high, it will not be favorable for cyclogenesis. Just like this, if I am walking in a windy day with an umbrella my umbrella will not remain straight because of the high wind, but my feet is not affected. So what happens actually, my umbrella gets bent. Or simply, I will take another example. If you are putting hair, that the hair gets distorted, gets sheared towards direction of wind if there is a windy day. So therefore, in the atmosphere, if this type of situation is there, the cyclone also cannot maintain its intensity to be weakened. So a high vertical wind shear is not favorable for cyclogenesis and intensification, and low vertical wind shear is favorable for genesis and intensification. Now, so same thing I have just explained here in the diagram. I'll just skip it.
Hello,
Yes.
sir.
Yes.
Extremely sorry, sir, to interfere you, sir. But due to time.
How much time I have now?
Sir, around 5 minutes. Sir.
Fine. I will complete it. Okay. Okay. So the cyclone moves. In a particular environment, just like a cork in the ocean. If I just throw a cork into the ocean, it will move along the ocean current. Similarly, in the atmosphere, a cyclone is just like a cork, and it moves as per the prevailing winds in the atmosphere. So similarly, the intensity of cyclone depends on many factors, just like the prevailing winds, the prevailing oceanic conditions, and prevailing atmospheric conditions. According to the intensity is defined. So I will not discuss in details because of the shortage of time. I just want to say that there are many factors which determines the intensification and weakening of the cyclones. Now I'll come to the cyclone forecasting. As you know that the cyclone is a killer, as I have discussed so far. So therefore, for measuring its intensity and location and providing the correct forecast and take the mitigation measures, there are various steps. For disaster management, we have got hazard analysis, vulnerability analysis, preparedness and planning measures, and early warning and mitigation. But it has been seen that early warning is a major component. And when I say early warning, it includes the skill in monitoring and prediction of the cyclones, effective warning products generation disseminations, coordination with emergency response units like disaster managers, district collectors, then public perception. If people believe your warning, then they will act. So official warnings should have the credibility. And luckily, over the years, with the technological investment, the warning has been quite accurate and people believe it, the customers believe it, and hence they are acting upon it and they are taking the actions to minimize loss of lives. Now, in nutshell, the early warning system of cyclone consists of various steps. The first step is that you have to take observations from various platforms like surface observations, from automated weather stations, automated rain gauges, floating platform from the sea, by releasing balloons in the atmosphere, by following with the radar, and also by following the satellites. All these observations come to the forecaster to define what is the initial status of the atmosphere. And at the same time, it goes to the models to find out what will be the status in future time. So both these informations are available to the forecaster. Now he analyzes various types of forecasts available from various types of models and various types of observations available from various weather systems. And finally, he takes a decision and provides this forecast, which is called as the end forecast. And this end forecast is provided in form of a bulletin. It is called a cyclone warning bulletin. It is given to decision maker, and decision maker takes the actions. We have got various types of models. You can see in this below diagram, there are various types of model forecast for a given cyclone file in here. Various track forecast is provided. And based on this track forecast, the forecaster decides what will be the final track, taking into decision the strength and weakness of various models, taking into decision the current status of the observations. And finally, on this day, the forecast was provided like this. For example, this is the final forecast. The black line is the actual track of the cyclone, and the red line is the forecast. So this, you will find that black and red line coinciding with each other 5 days in advance. So that has been the achievement because of the development of technology and investment in this sector. So accordingly, also we provide the rainfall forecast, wind forecast, and storm surge forecast. Okay, so these are the various types of observing systems I have just discussed. We have got observation systems with our actual observatories. We have got observation from satellite, observation from radar. All these observations are taken care while deciding the current location and intensity. Sometimes you might be hearing from TV that T number is 2.5 or T number is 5.5. The T stands for tropical cyclone intensity, and this intensity scale is defined based on the satellite imagery. But however, while giving the forecast, finally, the forecaster takes into consideration the intensity as estimated by the satellite, radar, all observations, and final forecast is provided. So there are various processes to determine the center intensity of the cyclones. I'm not going to discuss. You can look into it afterwards. And we nowadays provide the forecast in 15 days in advance also. That is called an extended range forecast. You can see one example. We say 15 days in advance, where is the probable area where a cyclone can develop. Then after that, we follow it on day-to-day basis. 5 days in advance, we say where the cyclone will develop, what will be its intensification, what will be its track, where it will cross the coast, and accordingly, we provide the information. So for this purpose, I'll just show an example of the cyclone funny. One of the model, how it is predicting long day before that cyclone will cross near Puri. On the left-hand side, we'll see that there are many tracks from different models. All these informations are utilized, and it was provided 3 days in advance. It was told that cyclone will cross Puri. Okay, so this is just an example of another cyclone. I'll just leave it. This is another example of cyclone forecast with the tracks. And finally, this is just an example of finally what we say to the public. To the public, we say, this is the track of the cyclone. Red one is the track of the cyclone forecast. Black one is the actual track. On the right-hand side, we provide what will be the wind distribution. Where will be the wind more than 120 kilometers? Where will be the wind more than 90 kilometers? Where the wind it will be more than, say, 30 kilometers? All these informations are provided to help the various marine community like fishermen, ships, trawlers, etc. And also disaster managers at the coast, so that they can decide where to evacuate the people, where to keep the shelters, what action is to be taken to minimize the loss of lives and property. Okay, so these are some of the informations about the heavy rainfall, wind and storm surge forecast and warnings what we provide for different coasts. So we have also got modeling system to provide all this forecast. This is just an example of storm surge forecast which is associated in association with INCOIS Hyderabad. We provide this forecast. For different coasts, we say how much tidal water will inundate and up to what extent it will inundate, at what time it will inundate the low-lying areas of a particular district. Similarly, this is the rainfall forecast we provide for each river catchment, for each city, and for each district. For this purpose, also, we have got various types of models, and based on these models, we provide the final consensus forecast. We have got a very good decision support system to provide this type of forecast for the cyclones. This is an objective vision system where you can compare, comprehend, analyze all types of observations and forecast to reach out a decision and communicate to the public. So this is another example of what we did in case of the cyclones. I will tell you, once all this forecast is complete, we give this forecast to the general public through our cyclone warning centers. We have got 7 cyclone centers along the east and west coast. And Delhi, we have got a cyclone warning division which coordinates with nationally and internationally. We'll be happy to know that we not only provide the cyclone forecast to India, but also all the countries in Bay of Bengal Arabian Sea region. Delhi is one of the 6 regional centers in the world to provide the 13 countries in Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea region. Okay, and these forecasts are provided to various groups in specific manner. For example, for the fishermen, we provide forecast in very common layman language. And for a port, we provide the forecast in very technical manner as per their requirement. So there are about 13 types of forecast bulletins which are provided every 3 hours when a cyclone is approaching a coast. And all these forecasts are provided in different stages called as pre-cyclone watch, cyclone alert, cyclone warning, and post-landfall outlook. The pre-cyclone watch is provided 72 hours in advance, cyclone alert 48 hours in advance, cyclone warning at least 24 hours in advance. In 12 hours before landfall, we issue post-landfall outlook indicating which interior districts also will be affected. And when we see that there is no effect, we issue the D warning. So like this, we also issue, along with our forecast of the weather parameters, we also issue what is the damage expected in a particular district based on our forecast. And also we say what is the suggested action for the general public, for fishermen, for port, for shipping authorities, for the national highway authorities, for railway authorities, and for disaster managers and district collectors. So like this, for different stages of the cyclone, we have got different types of damage expectations and different stages of actions. So these information is also provided nowadays in color coordinates like yellow, orange, and a rare code, and that is also given to the general public and disaster managers. So you'll be happy to know that unlike many countries, India has got a dedicated website for the cyclone forecast. And you'll be happy that 2.5 lakh people visit at a particular time to observe these cyclones. So with this, we'll find that we have come up also the new idea of social media. We utilize Facebook, Twitter, and mobile app also to provide the cyclone warning information. We also got space-based information like games and Navic, and also utilize NAVTech system for the shipping communities. And also we've got FM radio, community radio, and all types. What we see actually, we maintain some kind of redundancy in tropical cyclone warning system because it is a killer. It is a highly stake system. So therefore, we try to propagate the information using all means so that no person in the vulnerable area is left out to get the information. We are utilizing all the electronic gadgets available in latest manner to provide the information to the last mile and to the last person in the vulnerable region. So, but still there is scope to improve further. We are coming up with a lot of improvement with further understanding of the cyclone and with further investment in technology and further planning and preparatory measures to tackle the vagaries of the tropical cyclones. So thank you very much for listening to my talk with patience.